right, folks, we are live and we are ready to begin the second half of our Canadian E-Motorsports Network F1 All-Star Racing Series season presented by Rampage Coffee Company. And we're at one of the most iconic tracks on the circuit, and it'll be our longest lap for round number 6, the Belgian Grand Prix, live from Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. And of course, our title sponsor is Rampage Coffee Company, and as a reminder, you get 10% off at rampagecoffee.com with the code 519ERACING. And those are obviously not last week's results. That's a couple weeks ago, the last time we did this at home. But last week, it was Jason Butler who picked up the win in his Alpine. And there you see he's closed the gap a little bit in the driver's standings. 17 points back of Darcy Ford overall. And third in terms of all 20 drivers, as you see there. But he's a big reason why Alpine is the leader in the in the constructors standings, excuse me. 7.5 point lead on AlphaTauri in second place. And now, as you can see, that is absolutely not the lap that we're looking for. Let's just try this once again here. Again, we've got a couple of technical snafus here because we had about an hour and a half to get things right for tonight's race. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. Alright, so there we go. There's the right lap. So, Spa-Francorchamps, 7 kilometers, 19 turns. It's fast. It's hilly. It's an iconic track. And as you'll see, it's a very short run here through the start-finish straight, but it's a hard break at about that 100-meter board into La Source. And you want to get on the throttle as soon as possible out of that turn, because it is basically full steam ahead through this section of the track for probably a solid 30 to 35 seconds up through Eau Rouge and Radillon. And now you come through onto the Kemmel Straight again, just absolutely flat out all the way through. And this doesn't stop. It feels like it's almost never ending until you finally get into Lake Home, this chicane here at the top of the hill. And now it's a relatively quick exit as we come through. And now it's into another hairpin here, another slippery downhill, also known as Bruxelles. And now coming through into a medium length straight. And now it's into a double left-hander pretty quickly, known as Pouhon. And our drivers will want to get, a little bit tighter in there as opposed to what whoever the guy setting this lap did. And now it's through turns 13 and 14, and now into Stavolo, a long winding right-hander. And then you get another right here, the Cours Paul Frere. And now it's an absolutely flat-out section here once again. Drivers will be at top speed coming through Blanchimont, this kind of subtle left-hander. And then it's another medium length straight until you get to the bus stop chicane, and it's a hard break right about here. And again, you want to have the precision to get through that chicane as quick as possible, and you're back onto the start-finish straight to complete the lap. As we are back onto our gameplay here, we're actually halfway through our qualifying session already. As you can see, the laps are long here at Spa. Our time to beat right now is a 1:45.223 set by our overall championship leader, Darcy Ford. As we're watching Dan Cudmore on the screen here, just trying to get out of the way by the looks of things. And let's just see if we can go ahead and get live here. As I think the one driver who hasn't set a lap yet would be Darcy Cudmore in his Red Bull, and he looks like he's just about to start doing so. Through La Source, maybe running a little bit wide there. And again, it's just flat out through this section of the track. He actually did set a lap, 1 minute 45.368. We caught him at the tail end of the lap. And now, again, we'll have to get a sense of what everybody's doing. Let's get our track map up here. And there, now you've got a little bit of a better sense of what's going on. And what's going on right now is the majority of the drivers are in pit lane. So I think we're kind of in the position now where the majority of the drivers are kind of looking at one last run here, because the time it'll take to get around for an outlap, you're probably realistically only getting one, and that might be all you're getting with the fuel loads anyway. And so, again, we'll just take a quick look at our order here so far. For those unfamiliar, the bottom 5 drivers, will get eliminated after this first qualifying session. So right now, the drivers who are in danger: Pierre Gasly, Kimi Räikkönen, George Russell, Ivan Reynolds in the Mercedes, and Nikita Mazepin in the Haas. So that's 4 AI drivers and 1 of our esports drivers. So pretty good mix here overall. As Darcy's the lone driver who's on the track right now. Looks like he'll be just coming into pit lane by the looks of it. And I don't see any movement right there on the track. It doesn't look like anything happening in pit lane at this point. And so again, we'll go through our order as it stands right now. Darcy Ford first, Darcy Cudmore, who you see coming into pit lane second, Jason Butler's third, Max Verstappen first of the AI drivers fourth, at 1 minute 45.812 seconds. Lewis Hamilton rounds out the top 5 in the first of the Mercedes. And we will go ahead and catch up with the other one as he makes his way out onto the track. That would be Ivan Reynolds. And while we've got a minute as he's on his outlap, let's take a look at what Reynolds is actually driving with here this evening. And so as we take a closer look at the equipment setup, and thanks to series founder Dan Cudmore for putting these together, Reynolds running the Playseat Challenge foldable racing chairs as cockpit with a Logitech G923 True Force wheel and pedals. Headset he's going with is the Logitech G733 Lightspeed wireless. And he's running it all on the PS5, so getting in on the next generation of gaming is Reynolds. As we'll come back to him on the track here. Again, it looks like a couple more drivers are set to make another opportunity here at this. 4:40 left in this opening qualifying session. And we'll see if Reynolds is able to improve on his time. He needs to find a little over a second out there to have a shot. Right now, Dan Cudmore is the man on the bubble in 15th. And he is also going to try and get a lap together here. And as Reynolds makes his way out, here he goes to begin what will probably be his last attempt at it here in Q1. Looking good through La Source, trying to keep it straight through this super fast section. Oh, touches the wall there a little bit. And certainly not what Reynolds had in mind as he's making his way through Eau Rouge and Radillon, now onto the Kemmel Straight. As it looks like the majority of the field is coming back out for another go. Looks like Reynolds might have gotten ahead of the game here a little bit and may have done so in a smart manner. But we'll have to see what his time looks like as he comes through Sector 2. He's still about another 25 to 30 seconds away from that time marker. And speaking of Sector 2, we've got a yellow there. And a yellow in Sector 3 as well. Looks like we might have a Williams tripped up. Meanwhile, Reynolds coming through this kind of longer chicane as he comes down through turn number 15. And across the sector marker, 117.533, 1.8 seconds better than he's posted to this point. And we'll see what Reynolds has here in this third and final sector. It's basically foot to the floor all the way through. Takes Blanchimont nicely. Now coming up to the chicane. The good old bus stop. And it looks like he's kept it relatively straight through those last couple turns. Reynolds coming through to the line. Let's see what he's got. Up into 13th, 147.248 is Ivan Reynolds. So good run there for the Mercedes and straight into the wall through La Source. At least he got the time in as Cudmore comes through. He's now on the outside looking in. And I'm not sure if this is an out lap for the Alfa Romeo or what's going on. He won't beat Reynolds' time. 2 minutes to go. This might be his only shot at it. And so I think he's going to try and squeeze one more out of this, is Dan Cudmore in the Alfa Romeo. And we got a yellow in Sector 1. As we're down to, I would say, probably about a minute and a half left in this opening qualifying session. Again, bottom 5 drivers are eliminated. And Dan Cudmore running in 16th. He needs 2/100ths of a second to get out of that danger zone. And let's see if he can find it here. As he's into his middle sector, let's briefly check in on Michael Dimitrov in the Williams. Dimitrov currently running in 11th. And coming up through the final couple corners here, I think he may be out of fuel here as he's just kind of weaving. Or perhaps just getting those tires warm for one more go. As we see Jared Ireland and Ryan Gibson both having retired from this session. The top 6 in our standings right now have all decided to stay in pit lane. They're satisfied with their times. So we go to 7th place Cody Cudmore here for a second. Cody in the Ferrari making his way down that hard and fast double left-hander. And he might be trying to gear up here as well, as I don't know if he'll be able to get there quite fast enough. Well, no, this might be another lap. Meanwhile, back to Dan Cudmore in 17th. He crosses the line up to 7th. We caught him at the tail end. 146.560 is the time. So a clutch lap at the very end of the session from Dan Cudmore, and that's going to give us triple zeros on the clock. And so, right now as it stands, I think we are looking at 5 AI drivers eliminated, as I think Ivan Reynolds got into Q2 at the very end by 5/100ths of a second, it would appear. But we'll have to see if any of the AI cars ahead have anything to say about that, as we got a bit of a log jam at the end of the straight. And yeah, we got about a quarter of the field there, give or take. As again, our clock is at triple zeros now. Let's check in on Dimitrov. I think he may have started his final lap just before the clock went to triple zeros. And so this lap will count as he comes through. Dimitrov currently in 12th. A little bit squirrely out of that final turn, but enough to move himself up to 11th. So he's safely through to Q2. And again, let's just see if I'm not even sure if the AI laps will count. They're not showing the checkered flag on the board. And I don't think they will, because Russell is off to pit lane. Let's just see what everybody else is doing. Gasly in pit lane from 13th. And it's the next few cars that come through that'll ultimately tell the story. As we'll go back to the guy who got himself off of death's door, so to speak, or out of the elimination zone, that being Dan Cudmore in the Alfa Romeo. And we'll get a look at his setup as we progress here as well, along with Andy Hurdle in the McLaren. We didn't get a good look at him. He got a lap in early. But we'll be sure to get a little bit of Andy on camera here in Q2. And speaking of, as I thought, it is 5 AI drivers eliminated. So Leclerc in the Ferrari, Vettel in the Aston Martin, Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo, Russell in the Williams, Mazepin in the Haas. They're all out. So all 10 of our esports drivers remain very much in the picture as we head to the second qualifying session. And as we do, we will go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Let me breathe here for a second, as we'll get to our old friend. Actually, I may not have had Chuck Norris, so I think this is an ad for our friends at Rampage Coffee Company. Have a watch. All right, and so as you can see, we are off to our second qualifying session here. Our top 15 from the first session progressed to Q2. And again, for those unfamiliar with the format of Formula One, if you make it to the top 10, whatever tire you set your best lap on, that'll be what you start the race with. As this will be a little bit of a shorter session at 15 minutes compared to the 18 minutes from Q1. And let's just see who's going to make their way out first. Looks like we got a couple of AI drivers out to start. And Michael Dimitrov as well, so let's see if we can't catch up with the Williams once more. As he makes his way out, it looks like Reynolds is headed out on track too. And so we will go ahead and see who we can get out of our real-life drivers. Of course, they're the bigger priority in our series here. And how about we check in with Darcy Cudmore in the Red Bull first. Again, this is just an outlap here, so it'll take, give or take, a couple minutes for him to get out there. And it looks like he's progressed relatively nicely here through the opening sector of the lap. Again, not registering a time just yet, but certainly he's proven to be fast in qualifying the last couple of weeks. Just would like to put it together on an actual race session. It just hasn't quite happened for him, not the way he would have liked, especially given the starts that he's had to this point. And now, as he's out on track for the purpose of an outlap, we will go ahead and check in on Andy Hurdle in his McLaren for the first time. Hurdle, another guy who's turned in some solid qualifying results, but it hasn't necessarily translated to the races. But he's certainly a guy to watch, and certainly a guy with an intriguing setup of his own, as we'll go ahead and take a look at what Hurdle's running on the McLaren, or at his home in Ohio. Running the open wheeler Gen 3 racing stand as his cockpit. 55-inch monitor for his racing, which is what I'm watching this on right now. Thrustmaster T300 wheelbase and a Thrustmaster open wheel add-on as his official wheel. And again, Hurdle, he seems to enjoy the open wheel racing. Got introduced to him on the NASCAR side of things first, but initially came over from Project Cars, and as a bit of a hint, we might have a bit of an update on that, or a bit of a news development here in the coming days and weeks. So keep an ear out for what's going on that side of things, as we'll go ahead and check in on Hurdle's first flying lap here. And again, it's just absolutely flat out through this opening section of the track. If you think of braking, you're doing it wrong. And Hurdle makes his way down the straight. And there you see the opening time, 30.538 through one sector. And that McLaren looking awfully good here so far as Gasly sets the fastest time for about half a second before Alonso crosses the line. 146, now 145.453 is the fastest. Max Verstappen, the AI driver. And let's see what our guys have, as it looks like it'll be Reynolds who will be first to cross out of the AI, or out of our esports drivers. And so we will go ahead and get our good old friends at Rampage back up here, AI or overlay wise. And let's just see what Reynolds does as he crosses the line. He's 8th fastest out of the drivers who've posted laps so far, now 9th, as Darcy Ford goes fastest into the 144s. Good 7/10 ahead of Max Verstappen. So again, Darcy Ford turning in a strong qualifying performance as we see more laps coming in. Next across the line again will be Dan Cudmore in the Alfa Romeo. 9:55 left in the second qualifying session. Cudmore crosses the line. He's 9th. 146.980. And, of course, that would get him into Q3 at this point, but a couple of drivers yet to post times in the form of Cody Cudmore and Ryan Gibson, Ferrari and Aston Martin, respectively. Cody's out there, Ryan still in pit lane. And let's just see who's going to be coming through next. I think it might be Darcy Cudmore by the looks of things in his Red Bull. There he is. Currently 5th in this session, 146.353. Beaten out by Hurdle, who we were watching a little bit earlier. 145.712 was ultimately what he finished his lap with. And the Red Bull's going to duck into pit lane. And I would imagine Hurdle and the McLaren will be doing the same. Running wide through that double left-hander. And let's just see who else is on track that we can actually keep an eye on here. Check in on Jason Butler as he just finishes up his lap to move up into 6th. 1:46.751 his time. And again, we just caught him at the tail end of that lap. And as he goes around presumably for an in lap, we'll check in on Jared Ireland, who's running this one rather courageously and albeit a little bit off track here as well. I would have to think this is an in lap for the Haas. Currently 8th, and given what we were talking about going into tonight's race, it's a wonder he's running it, but we love to see him here as he makes his way into pit lane. Meanwhile, back out to Ivan Reynolds on track in the Mercedes, 148.036, his best time to date. And let's just go ahead and see if we can get any data here. Let's see. Okay, so there's a look at what everybody's doing tire-wise here so far. Ireland, it looks like he's satisfied with that 146.841. As I think he'll just take a breather for the rest of this session. Currently 8th, so a little bit of a risky play there, especially since it'll only take 3/10 of a second for the man in 11th to beat that time and potentially push him down. So not a whole lot of not a huge safety net there as Reynolds makes his way into pit lane. And Cody Cudmore, he manages only 12th so far. But he may have another go at it, and he's on the medium tire as well, so that's another consideration. Though it has to be said, Butler's the only one who's posted his fastest lap on the medium so far. Everyone else on soft. Everyone else in the top 10, that is. as Cody Cudmore and Michael Dimitrov also on mediums for their fastest lap to this point. 147.453 for Cody Cudmore was what he just posted. And just a little bit off of that was Dimitrov as Ryan Gibson goes into the top 10, sixth best, 146.627. Let's get our first look at that Aston Martin here. As it looks like he's just content to get out of Darcy Cudmore's way, or might actually be going a bit ahead. So a little bit of confusion there. I wonder if that's ultimately going to affect Gibson as he tries maybe one more flyer. But ultimately, he may just opt to come into pit lane and do it fresh. As let's go down to the only other man on a flying lap right now being Cody Cudmore. He's a little bit closer to the end of the lap. 117.2 is his best through two sectors so far. And making his way through that bus stop chicane here to end the lap. Nice exit. And can only manage it said 13th, now he's up to 10th. So 146.920. He's got 0.02 of a second on the man in 11th. So again, things tightening up there for those final couple spots. And right now in our elimination zone, we've got three of our own drivers here. That'd be Ivan Reynolds in 15th, Dimitrov 14th, Dan Cudmore in 12th, along with Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly in that elimination zone for Q2 with 4:15 left in the session. As we'll just kind of scan the track here, I think Dan Cudmore is going for another hot lap here. And as he does, he's just kind of getting into the second sector here, so that's a good time for us to check in on the setup that DC's running here. Thrustmaster T100 RS wheelbase with a Formula Wheel add-on, the Ferrari SF1000 edition. I know he was certainly excited about that, and certainly it's paid dividends here so far for him. And running Thrustmaster TLCM pedals along with it, so definitely a Thrustmaster in his own right. And before I get myself booted off the air, let's go back to his lap. And he's certainly flying through these last couple corners, just breezing through Blanchiment. And now it's a hard break into that bus stop. Let's see what he's got coming through. Oh, a little bit squirrely out of the turn. Is he able to get into the top 10? The answer is yes, into 6th. 3 minutes left in the session. Dan Cudmore moves back into the top 10. And that puts Jared Ireland as the man on the bubble right now. Cody Cudmore just outside, less than a 10th away from 10th. All right, let's see what other intrigue we can get up to on the track here. So we'll check in on Darcy Cudmore here in the Red Bull. Just starting the third and final sector, whipping his way around Blanchiment. And now again, it's another hard break into the bus stop chicane. Looks like he's navigated that relatively flawlessly. Nice exit. What's he got? He's got second place, 145.163. Great lap from Darcy Cudmore, but again, 0.6 off of what Darcy Ford's posted. So you have to wonder where that pace is coming from. Certainly an incredible early lap there from Darcy Ford to get into the 44s. And certainly he's been content to wait it out in pit lane ever since, as we're down to $1.50 left in Q2. Meanwhile, let's go to Michael Dimitrov, who's just finishing up a flyer, and he moves up into 7th. So, 146.560. Just pulling that Williams into Q3 for the moment. Minute and a half left in this session. The majority of the cars that are on track now, they'll be able to get out for one more flying lap. They'll be able to just get around in time by the looks of it. Because for those unfamiliar, if you get to the start-finish line before the clock hits 0, you can go ahead and complete that lap. And now Dimitrov making his way through Lake Home at the top of the hill. And let's just see what else we can get up to. It looks like Jason Butler's out on track in his Alpine. Running a little bit wide there, maybe just trying to get as much of a run as possible. He's 9th right now, less than a 10th away from danger. As he's able to... Oh, he misses the zone at La Source, misses the braking point. And that is ultimately going to compromise his lap. There's no coming back from that, unfortunately, for Jason Butler. So it's kind of white-knuckle driving here for him as we get into the final few seconds of Q2. Meanwhile, Cody Cudmore is going to get out in time for a flying lap. Oh my gosh, he hits it! Not sure if he hit Reynolds or Hamilton. There's the confirmation. It's Hamilton, and Cody's going to get dinged a 5-place grid penalty, unfortunately, at the same time. Meanwhile, Ivan Reynolds coming up the Kemmel Straight. As we've hit triple zeros, Cody Cudmore has crashed out of this session. As he won't be able to do anything now. Its clock has struck 0 on his qualifying opportunity. And so, the way things are looking right now, we're looking at 3 of our drivers being put out in the form of Jared Ireland, Cody Cudmore, and Ivan Reynolds, with Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly set to join them. Of course, there are a few drivers still out there on laps. So, things are subject to change, as we've heard a lot of over the last couple of years. Meanwhile, Reynolds coming through here. He's 15th as it stands. Trying to find just a little bit more pace here. I don't think this lap's going to do it. And indeed, it's 1.3 seconds off the pace he needs. And it's hard to find that here in Sector 3 when everyone's just absolutely flat out. And now here's Reynolds, again, making his way to that final chicane. And we'll make sure we see... Well, Reynolds goes into pit lane anyway. So he's going to be eliminated in this session. Gasly out in this session. Cody Cudmore will be out. Jared Ireland out. And I think Ricciardo will be coming into pit lane as well. Let's just see. Yeah, looking at the time, I would go ahead and say that's an in lap. And in he goes. And out of qualifying he goes. So, your top 10. A couple of Darcys at the head of the field. Ford and Cudmore respectively. Verstappen, Hamilton, 3-4. Jason Butler rounds out the top 5. Andy Hurdle, 6th. Michael Dimitrov, 7th in the Williams. Dan Cudmore, 8th in his Alfa Romeo. Ryan Gibson, 9th in his Aston Martin. And Fernando Alonso rounds out the top 10. So, 7 real-life drivers, 3 AIs remaining. And Q3 just a few seconds away. And I think we're just kind of getting everything finalized here. As you see, the time remaining still ticking down. Looks like everybody's either in pit lane or disconnected, though, so it won't be too much longer before we move along here. And all you got to do is speak it into existence here, I guess. As, again, you see what that top 10 looks like. And I don't think any of those drivers have any penalties to worry about, so let's see if we can go ahead and push that clock a little bit further. As it looks like we're just kind of waiting in a bit of a holding pattern here with the game itself. Down to the final few seconds of this kind of 30-second wait period. And from there, we should be off to Q3 relatively quickly. And certainly it's been an exciting qualifying session so far. I'm calling this one from my couch, but this is going to be a race where you're going to be on the edge of your seat all the way through. And it's only really Spa that can produce an experience quite like this, as Q3 is officially underway. And there's no sense in really holding back now for any of the drivers, as you'll predictably see the three AIs go out first. Again, a longer lap, though, so if you want to have two opportunities, you do almost have to come out right now, because it'll take probably 2 minutes to get around. Your lap's 145, 146. Another roughly 2 minutes to get back around. And then, yeah, it gets kind of tight on the way back. Not a whole lot of wiggle room there. As we'll try and get a sense of who's out there. Looks like it'll be... no, it's going to be Darcy Cudmore leading the way, but you see Michael Dimitrov there in the background in his Williams. In terms of our real-life drivers, and I think it might actually have been Dimitrov that got out first out of those two. Indeed, he is a little bit further down the circuit. Kind of wedged in with a couple of our AI drivers. And who knows, that might be able to give him a little bit of a tow. Interesting that he's starting on the medium tires for this session. Certainly the softs are available to him, and if you're going all out in Q3, that would be perhaps expected, unless the tire allocation's a little bit off for the Williams in the name of just getting into this session. Be an interesting thing to observe, as we've got all 10 of our drivers out on the track now. And again, it'll be Dimitrov who's across the line first by the looks of it out of our human drivers, as Alonso's the first AI to begin a hot lap. And let's just go ahead and get our time up here. Nice wide berth into La Source from Dimitrov, able to get that around nicely. And again, it is just absolutely flat out from here through this section. It's roughly 30 to 35 seconds of just holding on, foot to the floor, just drive for dear life as you make that climb, and down this Kemmel straight here as well. No let up in the speed whatsoever. And Dimitrov navigates that nicely. 31.085 is his opening sector time. I think we saw a couple of 30.5s out there, and perhaps some better options as well. As we will go a little bit further back to find Jason Butler making his way down the Kemmel Straight. And we'll see what kind of time he posts through Sector 1. And 30.799, so a few tenths faster than Dimitrov. Butler, I believe, on the soft tires compared to the medium. So that's certainly where it can make the difference, and certainly you see the red markings on the side, so that does indicate the soft tire. Meanwhile, back to Dimitrov as he comes through the end of Sector 2, basically 120 flat, and running a little bit wide out of Paul Frere as he tries to build up as much speed as possible. And I don't know if this will be the lap he's looking for as he winds around Blanchiment. And slows down into that final chicane. 145.144 is the best time, and Dimitrov bails on the lap, almost putting it into the wall in the process. Meanwhile, back on track, we find Jason Butler beginning his third and final sector of his opening hot lap. Nobody really around him on track. And coming into that final bus stop chicane there, he's hard on the brakes, getting as much grip as possible out of those soft tires. And nice exit out of the final turn. Butler to the line. And into second, 3/10 off pole position right now. 145.443 is his time. Meanwhile, Darcy Ford coming through to finish his opening lap, and he's going to get onto pole position back into the 144s, 144.842. Andy Hurdle through in fourth. Dan Cudmore about to finish his lap here. And might be a little over a second off here, but we'll have to see. He's through in sixth, 146.392. And so we'll go to Ryan Gibson now coming through. That Aston Martin could be competitive here. Based on the time, I would expect him probably to be middle of the pack right now. Through that final turn, Gibson to the line. And he gets himself into sixth, 146.352. And so, things are getting a little bit interesting here as we're down to 6.5 minutes remaining in this final qualifying session. And it looks like Darcy Cudmore's going to start his first flyer. One of two drivers who's yet to post a time, the other being Michael Dimitrov. And Darcy running the softs. And again, just trying to get every last ounce of speed he can through this section. As again, after that opening turn, it is basically flat out all the way up. And 30.527, that is, if not his fastest opening sector, or if not the overall fastest, certainly his fastest. Meanwhile, a little bit further up the track, Andy Hurdle, I think he is on an in-lap. Darcy Ford, meanwhile, improves his pole time, 144.592. Unbelievable lap out of the AlphaTauri so far. Not sure where he's finding this speed, but again, he is a formidable driver, is Darcy Ford. And the other Darcy trying to emulate that here as Cudmore comes to the end of Sector 2. And he's through in a time of 116.353. And again, it's basically just flat out through this final section here for the majority of it. And Darcy ducks through Blanchiment. And now again, it's a hard break right about here into that bus stop chicane. And he's through. Final approach to the line. What's he got? He's got fifth fastest right now. 1 minute 45.634. Solid lap out of the Red Bull. As it looks like Dimitrov is the only one who's setting up for a flyer here. Although it could be said that Darcy Cudmore is trying for another. 4:20 left in this final qualifying session. And Dimitrov on the outlap right now, as he's just kind of winding his way around, getting those soft tires, it would appear. Yes, indeed. The soft tires, getting those warmed up. And he'll have one, maybe two goes at it. But ultimately, the driver who is the story right now is Darcy Ford, as he improves his lap time yet again. And, yeah, there really isn't much more to say. There's about 0.7 of a second separating Darcy Ford from the rest of the field here at Spa. And he may just drive away with this one, but of course there's still a race to run. And it's only 22 laps tonight, so every mistake magnified that much more. Meanwhile, Darcy Cudmore just put up the fastest second sector of anybody. So let's see if the Red Bull can put up a challenge to the sister car. And Cudmore through. Nice braking into that final chicane. Maybe a little bit forward on that. Oh, I think he could have improved that time potentially, but he decides to bail on the lap. I think he might be content with that at this point. As right about now, you're looking at sort of that decision point of if you're going to go out again, you better do it right now. As you've got, realistically, probably one shot at it if you make your way out now. Meanwhile, a guy who is out there right now is, well, we're with Darcy Ford right now, but Michael Dimitrov is the guy we were looking for, and there he is. 30.665 is his opening sector time, running a little bit wide out of that turn. But navigating the double left rather nicely. And Dimitrov, the only driver in the top 10 who's yet to post a time in this session. So we'll have to see if he's able to improve. As it stands right now, it's Ford and Verstappen on the front row. Jason Butler third, although he's on a flying lap, and Dimitrov flying here, just put up a purple sector 2. And let's see how he comes out as he comes toward the end of his lap, as we're down to 90 seconds remaining in this session. Dimitrov braking nicely. He could have a good lap here, folks. Final run up to the line, and he moves up into 7th. 1 minute 46.307. Getting as much as he can, basically, out of that Williams with 1:10 left in qualifying. Now, on to Jason Butler, 30.543 in the opening sector. Promising start for the Alpine, the man who's third overall in the driver's standings. 116.758, so a little bit off the pace in Sector 2. And I think he is potentially abandoning the lap here, as I think he's just let his AI teammate pass. And it'll be just gearing up for one more go at this point, as we're down to 30 seconds left in qualifying. And Butler, that's going to be the end of his qualifying session, as he's not going to be able to get out again. So, we'll go to Dan Cudmore here first, as I think he's ahead of Ryan Gibson on track, and indeed he is. This will be Cudmore's final go at it, probably. As he comes to the line, he moves up to 6th, 1 minute 45.839. As we've now hit triple zeros, so anyone who's begun a lap at this point, they can finish it. Anyone else who hasn't gotten to the line, done. And a guy who is very much not done is Michael Dimitrov, as he comes up to the final chicane of his final lap. And just ducking through those final couple of corners. Let's see how he gets to the line. Up into 8th, 1 minute 45.937. Ryan Gibson now in the Aston Martin. Down in 9th, looking to improve on his time, if nothing else. And that final dip into the final couple corners, and I think it'll be a little bit off here, but we'll have to see. Maybe not. He moves up into 6th. So, nice final sector there from Ryan Gibson. And again, it doesn't look like anybody's touching that pole time from Darcy Ford, 1 minute 44.582. As it would appear that Dan Cudmore may be running out of gas here in his Alfa Romeo. Looking like he'll be starting in 7th for this session. Although the AI, Lewis Hamilton, might have something to say about that. And he's going to respond by going into pit lane. So, looks like our top 10 is basically set here. Darcy Ford effectively driving away from the field in qualifying. He's on pole with a time of 1 minute 44.582 seconds. Max Verstappen will start 2nd, 145.144. Jason Butler will start 3rd in his Alpine, 145.443, just a little bit off of that pace. Andy Hurdle in the McLaren starting 4th. Darcy Cudmore rounds out the top 5 with the 2nd Red Bull, 1 minute 45.634 is his best time. Ryan Gibson will start 6th, 145.773. Dan Cudmore starts 7th in the Alfa Romeo, Hamilton 8th alongside him in the Mercedes on row 4. And row 5 will be Dimitrov in the Williams, Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. And so, things will be very interesting here off the start. It's a relatively short run off the line to La Source. Certainly a commonplace for chaos in the Formula One history books. And it looks like, yeah, we've got everything pretty well finalized here. No penalties out of the top 10. And so, indeed, there is your top 10 to start tonight's race. The majority, I think, Dimitrov might be the only one on a medium tire out of that group. Everyone else, I think, starting on the softs. But we'll have to see what everyone else is doing, especially those outside the top 10, to try and get back into the swing of things here. As we've hit triple zeros on qualifying once again. And now it'll be just a short run-up to finalize strategies whenever everything loads up. And once we get to that point, we will be not far away from the race, as we do have a formation lap to account for as well. And then it'll be 22 laps of racing around one of Formula One's greatest tracks, and for that matter, one of the greatest tracks in the world, Spa-Francorchamps, and it's in the lovely European country of Belgium, our host tonight. And as we wait for everything to get finalized in the formation lap to begin, let us play the national anthem of tonight's host country, Belgium. Shockingly, that is not the Belgian national anthem, of course. Again, we're working through a couple of technical snafus here, so to speak. So let's try and get this one right on the other side. All right, I think we've got it just about set now, as the formation lap will be beginning in the background. Just make sure that we have our timing right on the other side. I think we do. So, again, as we honor and acknowledge our host country, here is the Belgian national anthem, take two. That anthem smoother than Belgian chocolate and about as enjoyable as a Belgian waffle. If you can't tell, I am rather hungry at the moment, as Darcy Ford will be hungry for a victory to try and push his lead further in the driver's standings. Of course, a pole position helps that as well. He's secured 12 points already here tonight. And somewhere along the line, it looks like Verstappen picked up a 5-place grid penalty, so it'll be our two real-life championship leaders, Ford and Butler, starting on the front row. Hurdle and Darcy Cudmore will be on row 2, Ryan Gibson and Dan Cudmore on row 3. So, all human drivers making up the top 6. As Ford tries to hit his mark, and he absolutely will. As we'll go ahead and see the rest of the grid form up. And there's the perspective from our pole sitter. Again, a relatively short run up to La Source. As it looks like we got everybody geared up here now. And there we go, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's lights out, away we go. Ford looks like he's gotten a pretty good start off the line. But as I say that, Hurdle goes inside. It's 3 wide into LaSource. Butler gets squeezed. Darcy Cudmore squeezed. 3 wide coming through. Oh my gosh! Hurdle's out. Butler's gotten ahead. Darcy Cudmore caught up in the carnage. Virtual safety car. This has got to be a full safety car, I would think. And right away, called it right off the hop. And we are immediately into a safety car situation. That opening turn, LaSource, it's tight, and it is super hard to navigate that, especially just everybody trying to get it right. Somehow, Jason Butler's escaped that with the lead. Hamilton second, Darcy Ford in third. What I'd be more curious about at this point is any damage to any of these cars. And let's see if we can actually get a sense of it. Looks like Ford's gotten away relatively unscathed here. What about Butler? Let's see. Hamilton, nothing going on. It looks like he's navigated that okay. Butler, I don't see anything inherently wrong there either. But again, not a huge surprise on lap 1. Just such a short run-up. And immediate casualties in the form of Darcy Cudmore and Andy Hurdle. So some unfortunate ends to those nights, but we've still got quite a bit of racing here to go. And again, it's a full safety car situation here, so no overtaking allowed. Meanwhile, we've got penalties to Reynolds, Dimitrov, Gibson, Raikkonen, and Verstappen by the looks of things. As we're on to lap 2. Yeah, somehow that was all one lap that all happened on. It was just, again, utter carnage ahead as we take a look at some of the pit stop strategies that could be possible. Safety car, of course, could alter all of that here. But it's happened early enough that I don't know how much of a difference it'll make here. Just lets the soft tires run a little bit longer. And, of course, the flip side to a safety car coming out this early is that you'll have drivers basically all bunched up together. So, not really a whole lot to worry about. It might get one fewer lap out of this safety car than the typical 3-lap window. And so, just a wild start to this one that's immediately got us under safety car conditions. On lap number 2, as it looks like a few of the drivers who had penalties have pitted. As I think Gibson went in. I think Dimitrov's in as well, or was in. So let's see if we can take a peek at some tires. Yeah, let's see. Dimitrov on hard tires, so I think he's going to probably try and go all the way on those now. Gibson now on mediums. And it looks like Verstappen went in for mediums as well. Meanwhile, I thought Butler was going to have a go at the safety car there for half a minute. But ultimately it didn't work out that way. As we'll stay with our race leader. Think it's our race leader anyway. Yes, it is. Just got to get a little bit of a closer look at the computer to make sure that we're following along with the right guy. And everybody's following Jason Butler and the safety car, for that matter, around the track. Looks like we got everybody bunched up. I think it'll be one more lap, though, before the safety car comes in. You'd hope with a lap this long that it wouldn't be any more than the next lap, especially with the whole field together. But lap 3, again, will begin under safety car conditions. So after an opening sprint to LaSource, which is this opening turn, things have kind of hit a standstill. as we get a nice little guided tour of the circuit, if nothing else. But hopefully we'll get back to what we came here for, which is, of course, racing in the not-too-distant future. As down the Kemmel Straight they go, just completing that long climb to begin the lap. And I guess not much sense to show any data if anyone's going the same speed or if everyone's going the same speed. As again, it's just kind of the safety car letting everyone tour around. And just like that, again, 22 laps, so any lap under the safety car conditions kind of takes away from a race relatively short. But again, hopefully the safety car will be in this lap. But no indication of that so far. Although that could come toward the end of this sector here as well. As, yeah, it looks like the entire field is together, so it's basically back to square one here. And there it is, safety car coming in this lap. So, kind of getting what we want here. The end of lap 3, beginning of lap 4, we'll see racing once again. And ultimately it'll be Jason Butler who will have that opportunity to kind of dictate when he starts. He's getting that wider berth from the safety car now. Butler bunching up the field a little bit, and there he goes. Trying to sneak off. And once he's through, Butler will assume the absolute opposite of what I was expecting. Butler into pit lane behind the safety car. What is going on here? Not entirely sure what's going on with Jason Butler. We'll have to get an update on that. And hopefully it's not a, it just looks like it's pit stop right now. Looks like he might have just changed his tires, maybe thought the safety car was going to go another lap. But Butler, that's going to be his race burned, basically, at this point, unless he gets another safety car. Meanwhile, back to the head of the field, Darcy Ford, tonight's pole sitter, now in second, 1.7 seconds behind our leader, Lewis Hamilton, to start this one. And it'll be another couple laps before that drag reduction system comes into play as well to get a little bit more speed on the start-finish straight and that Kemmel straight. So, Ford with a little bit of time to try and reel him in. He's got his AlphaTauri teammate Pierre Gasly there in third right behind him. Dan Cudmore in fourth in the Alfa Romeo, a beneficiary of the chaos. As again, we've got 4 penalties here that have been unaccounted for. We've got a yellow somewhere in Sector 2. But it looks like that's, well, I was going to say that's cleared up, but I think that is a, let's see, is that Dimitrov that's off? I think it might be Dimitrov and the Williams. But I think he's got it sorted out, and now it's a battle between Dimitrov and Butler for 17th a little bit further down the field. As finally we got a clean lap in, beginning lap 5 now of 22. All right, let's go down the field a little bit further now that we've got things calmed down a little bit more. And we'll check in on Jared Ireland and his Haas. He's running in 9th. And he started on the medium tire, so he might be able to go a little bit longer here to start, especially now with the benefit of the safety car. And so let's see if Ireland's able to do anything. Again, he'll be trying to catch cars with the benefit of DRS, mainly the Haas, definitely the slowest car in the game. But he's pulled rabbits out of hats before, has Ireland. And from 9th place, don't be surprised if he tries to get up a little higher. In fact, tried to make the move on Raikkonen there just a moment ago. Cody Cudmore trying to follow him. And Ireland just getting right onto the back through the double left-hander. Lovely move. Is he able to hold it? You bet your bottom dollar he is. And so Ireland up into 8th. And the guy looking to follow him through will be Cody Cudmore in the Ferrari, but he gets turned around out of that double left-hander, and he's into the wall. More carnage here to begin this one. Virtual safety car deployed. As it looks like Cody Cudmore has lost that front wing. Might have been a bit of a broadcaster jinx there, I guess you could say. As Cody's fallen down to 16th as a result. And so we'll try and move up the field here now. Dan Cudmore there in 11th. He's got Ivan Reynolds for company right behind him, about a second back in 12th. As again, virtual safety car conditions, everyone just reduces their speed as Reynolds heads into pit lane. And Dan Cudmore has done the same ahead of him. The VSC conditions proving to be an opportunity to most likely change tires here for both drivers. As DRS is once again enabled. Cudmore on the hard tires, Reynolds on softs. Cody in as well. That'll be for a front wing change. As we saw him get turned around. And so, let's try and get everything sorted out here once again. As through all that carnage, 6 of the top 7 are now real-life drivers, but the one who isn't is Darcy Ford, and he's right behind Lewis Hamilton going for the lead. Through that double left-hander where we just saw Cody Cudmore get it wrong, Hamilton and Ford going wheel to wheel. And Ford will have the inside line through here. And still battling with Hamilton all the way through. Looks like Hamilton will hold on to the lead for now. But DRS will be coming up here relatively shortly. And so Ford will have another go. You know he's going to have another go the way he's been driving tonight. And I thought he was going to try it through Blanchimont. That would have been dangerous. But I don't know if that was just a little bit glitchy on my end or what was going on, but it looked like that nose was getting into the back. But Ford's certainly close enough now, 0.6 of a second to use the DRS. Will he be able to brake on Hamilton? Not quite, as we're on lap 7 now. And now it's just a straight charge up the hill for both of these drivers, kind of separating themselves from the field a little bit. Ford trying to make his way up. Onto the Kemmel Straight is this pair. Now Ford will have a little bit more of a runway to try and catch Hamilton, and you see that gap going down. And Hamilton just shuts it off at Lacombe. That was another great opportunity to try and overtake there for Darcy Ford, but not quite close enough. As again, the way you look at this race now, 8 of the top 10 are AI drivers, Ford in 2nd, Ireland in 7th. That is the majority of the esports drivers for this particular series outside the top 10 right now. But in fairness, the majority of them have also pitted to this point, so that could ultimately get them the spots back, especially since the majority happened under safety car conditions. And so we'll go down the field a little bit further to see if we can find any battles here, but nothing inherently close right now as we look at the timesheets. We'll check in on Ryan Gibson, though, down in 12th. He came in during that first safety car session to pit for mediums. And let's see if he can get that Aston Martin working around this track here. And you know, he'd love to get to that battle ahead, and as we were talking about AI cars having not pitted, there's 3 of them in. And as a result, Darcy Ford's going to inherit the lead, which he's done, as Hamilton's in, Alonso in, Gasly in. And so, again, that'll shuffle the field a little bit. Leclerc up into second, Vettel to third. Ireland now fourth on the medium tires. And Raikkonen rounds out the top five. He'll have to come in relatively soon, I would think. Ricciardo the same. But it looks like they're out for at least one more lap by the looks of things, as we're on to lap 8 now of 22. And let's just see. Got a battle here between the two Alpines. Alonso gets ahead of Butler for 12th. And let's see if those two are able to get up the field a little bit further as we go along. Hamilton rejoins in 9th on the hard tires, so you know he's going all the way to the end. But again, Leclerc and Vettel still yet to stop on the soft tires, as we've got a yellow in Sector 2. We'll have to see who got left behind there, and oh, I think that might be Ireland who got twisted around, and indeed it is. Trying to hold on to it. And I think he kind of got ghosted as the Alpines came through. Ireland back on track in 13th. So certainly not what he would have wanted. It looked like that double-hander claimed him, as it did Cody Cudmore. Meanwhile, what do we have going on ahead here? We've got something happening in this second sector. Not sure who was left behind. But yeah, a little bit of a crazy race here so far, it has to be said. Things kind of getting thrown off right off the hop with that safety car as Darcy Ford's in to pit. He pits from the lead. But he comes out in third, just ahead of Max Verstappen. But Verstappen's going to have some speed, so let's go to that battle as they're climbing that hill. And Verstappen might have a go at him on the straight. And Verstappen now ahead just on pure speed, but will Ford be able to brake? No, Verstappen had the DRS. But Ford will get it back here, and certainly he's on the fresher medium tire, so he'll be able to do a little bit more damage as he's out in fourth. Charles Leclerc is your leader right now, Ricciardo second. But neither of those cars have pitted yet. As we go ahead and confirm that, indeed, that is the case. Leclerc, Ricciardo, Russell, Ireland. Those are the four who haven't made a stop as of yet. As we get the tire detail back up. Leclerc at the head of the field. He's up by 9.5 seconds, give or take. So we'll give the AI Ferrari a little bit of shine here, as his teammates at the back of the field right now in the form of Cody Cudmore. But he's come in a couple of laps ago for the hard tires, and now Leclerc's in pit lane. You have to think Ricciardo won't be too far behind. And now Leclerc in as we begin lap number 10, already just about at half distance. Just kind of the way things have gone here tonight, as Ford reclaims the lead, with Ricciardo having come in as well. And so it looks like we've got our order kind of sorted out after, you know, the chaos of the opening 4 or 5 laps that resulted in a bit of pit stop juggling. And Ford, you have to think, is kind of in the ideal spot here, freshest of the tires, and he's already in the lead. Though he's got Verstappen just 0.8 of a second back. And that gap is growing relatively quickly, though. Hamilton third, a further 0.6 back. Ryan Gibson there in fourth, as he's kind of snuck up the order a little bit. So we'll check in on Gibby in the Aston Martin as he tries to track down Hamilton to get himself a podium position. Gibson, if you recall, won a couple of weeks ago at Portugal as well, as we came back from the holidays. So Gibby's certainly capable here on the Formula One stage as well. And again, we'll have to see what he's got here on the medium tires compared to the hard for Hamilton right ahead of him in third. Meanwhile, down in seventh, we've got Jason Butler as he tries to claw some points back. And he may have a run at Gasly here in the final couple corners of the lap. If not here, certainly a go up the hill on the next lap. As again, things are still relatively close as Ford sets the fastest lap and Butler makes the move. Man, oh man, how'd he do that? Kind of got a little bit of a pick there in the form of Russell going into pit lane as well by the looks of things, as it looked like there was a little bit of a situation happening in that final chicane. But Butler makes his way through and he's up into fifth. So gaining 2 places out of that was the Alpine driver. And that'll certainly help his cause with, again, Darcy Ford in the lead, trying to do some damage control here. As we get a great aerial shot of that Lacombe chicane at the top of the hill. Meanwhile, let's go to Jared Ireland as he tries to recover here in 10th. Trying to catch that battle just ahead of him between Alonso and Vettel. A couple of former real-life world champions battling ahead of him at the middle of the field. And again, he's certainly got the speed to do so. And he's catching them rather quickly. That gap almost down to a second now. As those two continue to battle, certainly the Haas looking to get in on it. Meanwhile, a little further down the field, Reynolds and Russell battling for 14th. And it looks like Dimitrov wants to get in on that as well, so a couple of Williams on the Mercedes. And that could be a fun little tussle to watch as things are tight there. Meanwhile, we've got a yellow in Sector 2. And let's just see, I think that may have been Dimitrov that got caught up in something. And indeed it is. He's fallen back a couple of positions. Or down 1 spot by the looks of things. And, oh, loses it again coming out of that right-hander. And just a kind of cavalcade of miserable events here for Dimitrov. As those hard tires clearly aren't working for him. Unless there's something else wrong with the car. Not 100% sure. As we've officially passed the halfway point of tonight's race. We're on to lap 12 now. Darcy Ford with a 4.5 second lead. As we'll go back to him at the head of the field. He's got a rather comfortable gap there now, it has to be said. As he kind of skirts it wide there through Pouhon, but nothing wrong with that on the double left-hander, especially when he's got that kind of a gap. Meanwhile, down to Ireland in 9th for the time being, particularly because of the battle just ahead of him. As you know, he'd love to try and slingshot his way past both of those cars. And certainly he's close enough to Vettel to do it. And, yeah, Alonso's right in the picture there, too. 3 cars separated by a little over a second. And Ireland basically just looking to stay within range so he can use the DRS as Ford puts up another fastest lap. 148.589. And after escaping the early carnage, it looks like things have kind of unfolded in Darcy Ford's favor here once again. As we continue to watch this battle in the middle of the field. That rear wing briefly open. Yellow in Sector 3. And, okay, Hurdle just leaving the session. Dimitrov's out of this one, so I think he may have gotten caught up in something. And we've got another safety car. So, I think everybody's basically filled the tire requirement. I think you're going to go ahead and see some guys move to soft tires to try and finish this one, as the majority of the field is on mediums here. A few hard tire runners, but second safety car of this session. Again, a bit of an unfortunate happening here, as that'll take off another few laps of tonight's race, but such is life and such is racing. These things happen. Even in the virtual world, as we will get back to our race leader, Darcy Ford, for the time being. Looks like the safety car is just waiting there at the bottom of Eau Rouge and Radillon, that kind of uphill stretch to begin the lap. And that's where the safety car will pick up the leader, as we're almost at 2/3 distance here. But again, we'll have to see what our drivers decide to do. Obviously, safety car will play a little bit into it from a strategy perspective. And Ford is going to stay out. Relatively fresh medium tires, and the safety car will affect the wear on that as well, make it last a little bit longer. Ryan Gibson in. You have to think he's going for softs for this sprint to the finish. Jason Butler also in. And Jared Ireland in. Had a good run on those medium tires, 12 laps, but it'll be softs all the way through to the end for all three of those drivers, I would think. Although, it appears Gibson is onto the mediums once again, maybe having a better run on that yellow compound as opposed to the red soft. And let's just see what everybody's going to do here. We've got 3 retirements in tonight's race to this point. Dimitrov just out of tonight's race in the Williams. And then the 2 retirements after the first corner in the form of Darcy Cudmore and Andy Hurdle. As it looks like the field's starting to gradually bunch up here. Cody Cudmore just making his way out of pit lane. He'll finish on the soft tires, as will brother Dan, ahead of him in 16th. And the soft tires will certainly offer a distinct grip advantage here in the opening couple laps once we get back off the safety car. And we'll have to see if it's a sprint or indeed a rampage here, as we see Gasly picking up a 5-second penalty. And a friendly reminder to all of our viewers, you see it on the screen still, but if you head over to RampageCoffeeCompany.com and enter the code 519eRacing, you'll pick up an additional 10% off your order. So don't forget to show our friends and our title sponsor, Rampage Coffee Company, a little bit of love here, as they've certainly shown us some love in being the title sponsor of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network F1 All-Star Racing Series. Oh boy, that was a mouthful. And again, it looks like the field's starting to get a little bit closer together. Just a few stragglers there at the back. And I'm not sure it'll be next lap or the one after that the safety car will come in. You'd have to think it'll probably be the end of lap number 15, which is just about to start here. Again, just given the sheer length of the lap, you'd hope that would be all it would take, but you never know, as Reynolds is in a pit lane. And right now, the order is as follows. Ford leading, Hamilton second, Leclerc third, albeit with a penalty. Gasly fourth, with a penalty of his own. Alonso rounds out the top 5, Vettel 6th, Ricciardo 7th, Verstappen 8th. Ryan Gibson runs 9th, Jason Butler in 10th, Raikkonen 11th, Russell 12th, Jared Ireland in 13th, with his Haas teammate Nikita Mazepin right there in 14th, Dan Cudmore 15th in the Alfa Romeo, Cody Cudmore 16th in his Ferrari, and Ivan Reynolds, who we just saw making a pit stop, he is the last of our runners here in 17th. And Reynolds, the only one not quite on the back of the lineup forming behind the safety car. But still a few turns for him to get there, as he'll have a little bit of a speed advantage as he tries to catch up to the pack. And if he does, I wouldn't be surprised to see the safety car come in. Certainly it would be encouraging to have one more racing lap. And as we wait to sort all this out, we'll go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and hopefully we'll have a restart on the other side. Stay with us. And so, while we were away, we did in fact get confirmation that the safety car is coming in this lap. So you see Darcy Ford already building up a wide berth here, as it looks like Mazepin's retired from the race along the way as well, somehow crashing under the safety car. Certainly not the state you'd want it to be in. And I think we're back to green flag racing here somehow, and Ford's off into the lead, trying to keep it clean through La Source. Hamilton right there on the back. And there you see it from Ford's perspective as he makes that climb through Eau Rouge and Radillon. And there you see it's basically just flat out all the way up the hill. $195 on the old speedometer. 196, 197, just flat out all the way through. And then just that harsh braking into third gear, cutting your speed basically in half in about a second and a half. As we're on to lap 16 now, it'll be 6 to go at the line. But a long way to go to get to said line. And Ford will certainly have to do some battling here by the looks of things. But right now he's doing a good job of holding off Hamilton, trying to build up that lead once again. And it's already out to about a second. So Darcy Ford looking like he's off to a pretty good start here, it has to be said. As we'll go a little bit further down the field where we'll find Ryan Gibson and Jason Butler battling. But it looks like Gibson may have had an incident as he goes off. Or falls down the field, I should say. Not 100% sure what happened there. I thought we were going to see a battle between Gibson and Butler, but that didn't materialize. But we may yet see one between Butler and Ireland here, 9th and 10th respectively. As we're on to lap number 17 now of 22. And just ahead of Butler there, Ricciardo and Verstappen battling 7th and 8th. Butler might try and get in on that, might try and get inside, and he nabs both of them. Oh, what a move there from Jason Butler. You want to kill two birds with one stone? How about getting two places with one move? That's what the Alpine's just done. And just kept it calm there and took the inside line, and there he is going away into 7th, trying to, again, get back up the field just that little bit. And right now with a couple of drivers on the AI side with 5-second penalties, you could say Butler's probably a net 5th right now on the track. But you know he'd love to improve on that as well. And, you know, potentially snag a net podium out of this. Certainly not the night he would have wanted, given how it started. And the fact that he kind of got caught off with the opening safety car. think, again, he may have been expecting one more lap as we got another yellow here in Sector 2. And who's that getting left behind? I think it's Dan Cudmore in the Alfa Romeo. And again, it's that double left-hander that's caught so many drivers off guard here tonight. And for whatever reason, it's just been a tricky turn. Meanwhile, Butler up into 6th place now. As, I'm not 100% sure who fell down the field to make that happen, but I thought he had been 7th. But I do know that he's going to probably try and get Alonso here into La Source, as he's certainly close enough. DRS enabled once again. And there's Alonso in 5th, Butler right there behind him. And again, it's just got to be a pure run up the hill. And Butler's right there trying to get past a teammate. Oh, I thought they were going wheel to wheel, and Butler did get a little bit squirrely there. But coming up the hill onto the Kemmel Straight, he'll still have DRS, but I don't know if he's going to be quite close enough to claw it back. And not that time around. So I think he'll be following that Alpine Renault engine for another lap. But we've got Jared Ireland here in 8th in the Haas. You know, we'd love to nab Vettel here just ahead at some point to get into P7. And that gap just a little bit under or right around a second between those two. As we're on to lap 18 now, it'll be 4 remaining at the line in, again, what's been a very eventful Belgian Grand Prix here, as we see Cody Cudmore trying to make a move on the outside of Ricciardo. And I think he's got it. Cody Cudmore, nice move. Gets him into the top 10. And Ireland, I think he may have had a bit of an off there as Cudmore moves up into 9th, now up into 8th. Just a surgical lap here from the Ferrari, just getting by a few cars here. Not 100% sure what's gone on, but certainly working to the Ferrari's advantage. As we go down the field a little bit further, Ryan Gibson trying to make a move on Raikkonen into that bus stop chicane. He's got it for now. Will he be able to make it stick? No, he will not. As Verstappen and Ireland head into the pit lane, and I think I may have misspoken actually, as Ricciardo is going to get into La Source, Gibson on the outside. And that'll be a battle as those two run up the hill. And Gibson, you can see the lower downforce on the Aston Martin, but he's able to make it work to his advantage as he got the move done. Just ahead, though, Butler and Gasly battling for 4th, yellow in Sector 1 and 2. And I think Alonso may have had an issue. Indeed, into Lake Home, Alonso's stuck there on a lap 19. If he's able to keep going, I hope to God he is. As we see Reynolds spinning around there too. What in the world even is this race? It's been baffling to say the very least at times, but still interesting nonetheless, as we're riding with Butler, trying to hold off Gasly for 5th. But again, Gasly has that penalty, so Butler running net 3rd right now, as he's within 5 seconds of Leclerc ahead of him on the track. And again, a lot of things going on here, but it wouldn't be a race at Spa if there wasn't a lot of things going on. As a little bit further down the field, Reynolds and Verstappen battling. Meanwhile, the Alfa Romeo is going to battle here on as we get toward lap 20. Ford's on lap 20 in the lead. Cudmore trying to make the move on Raikkonen. Did he go a little too deep into the chicane? Yeah, it looks like he did, so he's back down into 11th. But that DRS is still open, notably Raikkonen's is as well, because Ricciardo's right there too. 9 through 11 separated by 0.8 of a second. As again, we're into the final couple laps of this Belgian Grand Prix that's been kind of crazy from the start. But again, the way the safety cars have kind of worked out, it's produced some entertaining battles over the course of the evening, as things haven't really been able to separate all that much. With the one notable exception, of course, at the head of the field, where Darcy Ford continues to maintain composure, 5.1 seconds up on Lewis Hamilton, as he's had the measure of this track from the word go. Qualifying was dominated by Darcy Ford, as well as he tries to extend his lead in the driver's standings. Trying to get out of here with the maximum 37 points here tonight, and he does have fastest lap under his belt as well. And so we'll have to see if Ford's able to hang on. He's looking awfully good for his second win of the season right now. But as we've seen tonight, absolutely anything can happen at any given time, as we're on to lap 21. 2 laps remaining now. Ford just kind of taking it easy, measured approach through La Source. And he gets to make that climb all on his own now. As we'll go down a little bit further to find a battle between a couple of Aston Martins and a Ferrari in the middle. Cody Cudmore trying to get past Vettel into 6th, but Ryan Gibson would love to catch that battle to get another position there as well, as Jared Ireland sets the fastest lap of the race, buck 47.222 in the Haas. And Cody Cudmore holding on there. You get a great view of the back of Vettel's Aston Martin. Gasly right there as well. So top 5 not out of the realm of possibility for Cody Cudmore. It would be a net 6th on the track right now as it is, with Gasly's 5-second penalty still in play. And let's see if Cody tries the move in the double left-hander where he lost his nose earlier, and decides discretion's the better part of valor right now. But he'll have another couple goes at it here with a couple of DRS zones still remaining. But he's basically glued to the back of that Aston Martin as they come to the beginning of Sector 3. Getting a wide run out of that right-hander. And again, Cody just trying to stay within striking distance, but onto the final lap now is Darcy Ford in the AlphaTauri, and again, he's kind of had the measure of it since probably the first round of pit stops, if we're being completely honest here, just the way things have worked out. And so we'll just ride on board with him here as he takes this final lap. 3.9 seconds clear of Hamilton in second, Leclerc there in third. But again, a 5-second penalty will affect his positioning, so Jason Butler is net third on the track. Same with Gasly there. The 5-second penalty will push him down, but it wouldn't help Cody Cudmore right now by the looks of things. And as I say that, Vettel passes Gasly for 5th. And Cudmore picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's Dan Cudmore I'm talking about, as he's gotten up into 10th, but that'd be net 11th now, as the 3-second penalty hasn't been applied just yet. And again, just staying with Ford the rest of the way, seeing if he's able to see this one through. And he's into the final sector of the final lap. Again, that gap right around 5 seconds. A fairly comfortable outing here for the AlphaTauri once he got going. And let's just see, no issues with fuel. The safety car certainly helped that, as he comes through the final bus stop chicane. And he's going to see the checkered flag right about now. He was able to get the job done in qualifying. He goes and takes the race as well. Darcy Ford is the winner of tonight's Belgian Grand Prix. And Hamilton third, Butler up Hamilton second, Butler up into third, again with that time penalty in play. And again, just in, hard to describe the performance overall that Darcy Ford just put up. But certainly, the class of the field here tonight, as he'll get full extension on his driver's standings lead. And I think that might actually bring AlphaTauri very much into play as well in the constructors' side of things, as Alonso finished a little bit further down the board. But again, it's the AlphaTauri of Darcy Ford, his second win of the season. Ricardo picks up driver of the day. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on, so sure, let's go with that. But, the guy on top of the podium, he's going to be happy about that. Darcy Ford, as he celebrates that win. And always nice to see the celebrations, whether it's just the Prosecco, champagne, whatever you want to call it, the bubbles on top of the podium. And there, we'll get a quick look at what the final standings for tonight look like with the penalties all in place. And so, again, it's Ford picking up the win, Hamilton second, Butler third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Sebastian Vettel rounds out the top five. Cody Cudmore finishes sixth in the Ferrari, Ryan Gibson seventh in the Aston Martin, Ricardo eighth, Gasly in ninth after his penalty, Dan Cudmore rounds out the top 10. Got his Alfa Romeo teammate Raikkonen 12th, Russell 12th, or Raikkonen 11th, excuse me, as we kind of got caught up in the time. So we will go ahead and take one last break, and we will tee up next week. All right, well, that was the beginning of our second half of this season. Again, congratulations to Darcy Ford for his second win of the season. And next week, we're off to a new track for our series. That'll be the Zandvoort circuit for the Dutch Grand Prix. That'll be round number 7, and that'll go down next Tuesday. Again, start time at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time right on YouTube. And, of course, if you happen to enjoy tonight's action, feel free to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, as we certainly appreciate all the support. And speaking of support, we, again, can't do this without our friends at Rampage Coffee Company. So, one final reminder, head to rampagecoffee.com. Receive 10% off your order with the code 519E-RACING. That's 519E-RACING, all one word. So, again, we hope you enjoyed tonight's coverage of the Belgian Grand Prix. For the rest of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network team, this is Jordy Carraher, and we will see you once again next Tuesday night.